Okay, so my name is Claire. I'm the one who's organizing this. First, some context about who I am and why you should care about anything I have to say. I went on my first bike tour when I was 21 years old. When I graduated college in Atlanta, I decided to bike home here to Baltimore, Maryland. I only learned how to change a flat 1 week before that trip. And my first bike was $150 from Craigslist. So max flats I ever had in a day was 7. Had a lot of dogs chase me in rural Georgia. Anyways, I made it home alive, decided to upgrade my bike, went to Europe, did 10 countries in Europe, came home, worked a job, quit that job, biked across the United States, and then went to New Zealand and part of Australia. So I'm always trying to squeeze in a bike tour, bike trip here or there, and I do like loads of bike packing in between all of that to, scratch that itch if I can't actually go, go abroad for like a couple of months. So, and if you want to, stick around for more information, you can follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube at Living by Bike. That is my name, Living by Bike, aside from Claire. Okay, so then we have bike packing and bicycle touring. I just wanted to provide a quick definition about what those two things are. If you have like a Venn diagram, they're like, 50% the same. Bike packing is usually a shorter trip. Maybe a couple of days, maybe a week. It's oftentimes much more off-road, so like thinking like mountain biking, no cell service, filtering your water kind of ideas. Whereas a bicycle tour is usually more on the roads and usually for like a month or 2 months or 3 months. Now these are not strict definitions. I provide them because it helps you understand the gear and the type of bike that you need. So I had some examples here, like biking across Europe is most likely going to be a bike tour because Europe has a lot of paved roads. And you can obviously go on to the gravel trails, the mountain biking trails. But oh my God, did my camera turn on?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay. But like for Europe, the mindset of touring, I think also is like engaging with the culture and like really kind of experiencing all aspects of it. Whereas bike packing, I think the mindset is more just like getting into nature. You just want to go, hang out with the trees. So that's that. Here we have designed, this could kind of go like any way. This is a checkpoint. This is our kind of racy gravel bike. This is a Trek store, so we're going to talk about some Trek bikes, obviously. It has some endurance geometry, so you still get that aero kind of position, lean forward, but you're not, racing for a triathlon. And we don't have any suspension on this bike, but this part right here provides with a little bit of suspension for the bumpy terrain. The reason why I picked out the checkpoint is because it can kind of do everything to a certain degree. You can go on the gravel roads here, and you can also go on the regular roads. You could probably suck it up and do some mountain biking if you're kind of crazy. There's the mentality of any bike is a mountain bike if you want it to be, so make with that what you will. But I think this bike is particularly really well-rounded for a lot of options, hence why we picked it out. And obviously you don't have to buy a brand new bike to go on a bike packing trip or a bicycle tour. Like I said earlier, my first trip I went on a $150 Craigslist bike, and that was also a Trek bike actually, it was in the 1990s. So you can upgrade your bike and make it work better. For example, on that bike that I got from Craigslist, I think I replaced all the handlebar grips because it felt like we were melting into it. I adjusted the shifting as best as I could. You replace the chain. You do as much as you can with the budget that you have. So there are lots of additions that you can make to your current bike, or just get a brand new bike. So it's whatever you want. Alrighty, let's go to the next one. Let me think about some other things about this checkpoint. Honestly, I was talking to somebody earlier about having some more swept back handlebars versus going down. That's another preference that you have for your own type of trip. So this one, as you can tell, these are drop bars, which is more aerodynamic. I used to do a lot of drop bars for my tours, but then I realized I never actually went down because oftentimes when you have bags on the front, I don't feel like very secure. And also if you're gonna do like a lot of mountain and gravel, you probably won't go down that much in my opinion. But again, like everyone's different. I have a friend who strictly does his drop bars on the craziest of terrains because that's just the kind of person he is. So he could ride this on some like medium level expert mountain biking trails and be fine. I couldn't. I'd probably end up crying on the side of the trail. So all up to what you want. So then we have bags for bike packing. Again, this is just one example of how you can design your bike. This is more of a lightweight setup. So we'll start in the front over here. This is an Ortlieb handlebar bag. I am not sponsored by Ortlieb, but I recommend them to everyone. I'm very passionate about this brand. They have a 5-year warranty, and they are completely waterproof. Waterproof bags are a must. You know, water resistant at the very least. At the very least, water resistant. It's going to rain. Like, every time you think it's going to be sunny, it's going to rain. Especially here in Maryland, it kind of rains a lot. Ortlieb is amazing. You want to have something in the front and the back because you want a balance of weight. So if all of your weight is in the front, you're going to tip forward. If all your weight is in the back, you're going to tip backwards. So you want to have a balance. So a front handlebar bag is a really great option. You can put your tent there, your clothing, your food, whatever it is that you want. Next, we also have some Ortlieb bags on the side here. These are the front fork panniers. Some people say panniers, I say panniers. It doesn't really matter that much. Those ones are great also because, again, it's a little bit of weight to help distribute it in the front, because you could have like some giant bags in the back. You can do whatever you want, but it's just better to have it more evenly spaced out. And I'm not going to do it because I want this to topple over, but these are actually really easy to take on and off. There's like one clip in the back. So again, these are waterproof. I like these also because I just put my toiletries in one and then my food in the other for the day. So again, you can buy whatever bags you want. I'm particularly passionate about the Ortlieb front rack bags. Now, if you guys put your name on the raffle earlier, we have a top tube bag or a feed bag. That's what this is here. In my opinion, a feed bag is a must because we're gonna get into nutrition a little bit later, but if you don't feel yourself, you're not gonna be able to go where you want to go. That's just, you're gonna bonk. If you don't know what the term bonking is, bonking means essentially biking past like your energy levels, and then you can like pass out, you can get dizzy. At worst, you fall over and like get a concussion, or you fall over in the streets. So having a feed bag is super important for snacks. I put my wallet, my phone, my hand sanitizer there also. Again, just distributing the weight. And it's better to, in my opinion, it's better to have a lot of medium and small bags instead of just a couple of huge bags, because there's gonna be a day where you need that pocket knife to fix that one thing. There's gonna be a day where you need that Band-Aid because you fell over. There's gonna be a day where you gotta get that rain jacket. And if everything is in just one giant bag, it's gonna be a huge pain to go find that one singular Band-Aid. So having it spread out is just way easier for knowing where everything is, grabbing what you need. Here we have another top tube bag. Some people, what they like to do is they like to have these huge triangles in the middle. I personally like to have all my water in the middle. Sometimes they'll put their water on the sides right here and put all their bags in the middle. Another great way to store your tools. We'll talk about tools in a little bit. I keep my bike lock in my top tube bag, the big one, and all of my tools. And also the good thing about these bags, so these front ones are Ortlieb's, and these are Bontrager/Trek. So what's special about these ones is, you've noticed, well, this one has one strap, but these don't really have many straps at all. It's because they bolt in directly to the frame. That's just a little pro for these bags. The reason why that's great is because I have a different brand for my other bike, which I can bring out later if you guys want, and it has the Velcro straps. And it hasn't happened yet, but my bike pants, they are like kind of, you know, getting worn down in the middle. So I have a feeling that one day I might get a hole because of the Velcro straps with my top tube bag. So that's just a plus for the Trek and Bontrager bags. Any questions so far?
I'm wondering, when your bike is running out, it's something like that with blocks that are bolted into the bike. You just leave your bike outside and go to sleep somewhere with the bag unattended because they're bolted in, right? So you can't take the bag out.
You're not gonna take your bags off your bike anyways. I mean, like, at least those bags, like these ones, I can imagine you taking these bags off, but like I would leave this on, I would leave these on. You'll, depending on like where, if you're gonna do more hotels or camping, you'll find what works for you. So if you're going to like a hostel, for example, you'll probably take all of your stuff off. If you're going camping, you're gonna leave everything on because like, why would you take it off?
Yeah, so, but like the bag that is bolted in, you can still take it out.
I mean, you can, but you'd have to just, there's 4 bolts in here. You wouldn't. I would never take it off. I don't ever, unless it's like, you're strapping into a car. I would never take it off. Yeah.
For bikes that don't have the bolt mounts, how would you mount it?
So,
yeah, without the bolt mounts.
yeah, these branded bags do have Velcro options. So, I mean, you could buy a different brand if you wanted to, and all the rest of the brands are just Velcro, or some have like, I don't know, some bungee cord design or rope design. It's just these ones which are, they're truck specific. So they have the bolts that are, made for our bikes.
Made for that specific bike?
Yeah, well, you would have to double check online, but I think most truck bikes do have the specific bolts underneath. The checkpoint in particular, the checkpoint in particular has a lot of attachment points. So, it's not like one of these Verbs probably would not have. But again, they double check that.
Any like bag configurations you would recommend? Well, I'm curious about the rear rack configuration.
So the rear rack is because I didn't want to put it on. That's really what it is.
That was
My bikes all have a rear rack. I don't pack lightly on my trips. I pack for the apocalypse, personally speaking, and also I do get cold, so I pack many layers. And hence I have a rear rack for extra gear and extra clothing. I just didn't want to put one on. That's too much extra work. Some people are anti putting on rear racks because they're afraid of having to haul more weight. I think that's a little silly, personally, because you're already hauling a lot of weight, and I mean, if you don't need it, then don't put it on, but if you do need it, you should put it on. For example, like my friend, Mitch, this is pretty similar to what his bike looks like because he's a big minimalist. I'm a maximalist, so there's no right or wrong.
See, I did a bikepacking trip a few months ago, and I got a front rack, and I just put like a duffel bag on it, and then like when it rained, I just bought some trash bags on it, but it was so front loaded, front heavy, and like
Yeah, it can
just
be-
did not travel well. And again, it was just like, that's what I've got, so I'm gonna throw it out there.
Exactly, like that's the mentality I think that we all need to have for bikepacking, bicycle touring. If you had unlimited money, I would say go for this, but sometimes you just do the best with what you got. But then also you have to, deal with the consequences of that.
But do you think if you had just like put all the weight on a back rack, would that?
I have a back rack as well.
Oh.
I also carry a lot of shit all the time, but yeah, it just wasn't balanced very well. It wasn't centered. It was just
And then we'll keep going on here. So here, I call this a butt rocket, but it's also called a rear bag. This is Bontrager. Some people do want these, some people don't want these. Again, if you're going to not want a rear rack, that's what you're gonna want instead to help balance your weight. I have a friend who puts his whole wardrobe in there, and that's what he does for his trips. All of his clothing goes into the rear rack. So again, it just depends on how much stuff that you want or need to carry. And for these bags, there's multiple different sizes, and you just have to make sure it fits your bike. That's kind of the deal with all of these bags, is that this will fit everything. If you have super narrow handlebars, you have to get a smaller bag. If you have super wide drop bars, you get a bigger. I know it's gonna read the fine print. Just read the fine print of what you're buying, and then if it doesn't work, you just return it and get something of a different size. I once got some butt rockets that just didn't work with my seat post and the seat, so you just return it and get a new one. Tools and accessories. You're gonna need a lot of tools, because if you're in the middle of Vermont and there's no one near you, you have to fix your own problems. Unless you go to the side of the road and wave someone down, which does happen. You can't get help that way. So, the first thing I have here is a Crank Brothers multi-tool. I passionately advocated to get this in the store because this tool, I can't take it out. I could grab mine in the back, but I can't take it out because it's ziplocked down. We can pass it around if you want. I'm very passionate about the Crank Brothers tool. Again, Toe Peak is a great brand. Oh, you have one too, yeah. Maybe you can speak on it later, but I love the Crank Brothers multi-tool because it has so many hex keys. Hex keys are the most important thing for your bike. You have to tighten down a bolt every now and then. If you know how to true a wheel, you can true a wheel with this part right here. This part also can be used as like, it only has 2 sizes, but that's like a wrench right there. You know, if you have tubeless tires, you can use this to take off your tubeless valve and then put sealant back in it. I mean, like, there's different types of screwdrivers here. The possibilities are endless. So if you're gonna get a multi-tool, get kind of an end-of-the-world multi-tool. Don't just get like a bare minimum one like you're some pro racer. So very passionate about Crank Brothers, but there are other brands like Toe Peak where you can, you know, shop around and get what works for you best. The next one is a GPS. I didn't feel like finding a GPS that would work with that handlebar bag, but I'm very passionate also about getting a GPS. Let's see if I'll grab one of these maybe. This is just a type of Garmin, a display Garmin. The reason why you want to use a GPS instead of a phone, and again, GPS is expensive, so if you're going to commit to cycling, you will be very happy with this investment. It's going to rain, like I mentioned, your phone will die in the rain. If you fall over and your bike and your phone falls over, your phone's going to get cracked. I've had my GPS, which is a different brand, for 4 years. It has fallen down whole flights of stairs. It has been in torrential downpour and snow and like 110-degree weather. It's still fine. My phone, your phone, once it gets 95 degrees, it stops working. So would highly recommend any kind of GPS that has navigation on, just like a GPS that tells you, you know, your watts or how far you've gone. It is so worth the investment. I've had mine for 4 years.
Do you have to have a subscription for like the service, or does it just work on its own?
So every GPS is different. What I can say is that oftentimes you will probably use Ride with GPS or Strava or Komoot to make a route, and then you'll upload it to your GPS. So it really depends if you want the premium features of one of those apps. For this itself, you don't have to pay for there's an app associated with it, and you don't have to pay for that. But you know, premium features are always behind a paywall, so.
Yeah, but for basic navigation, you don't have to.
No.
Okay.
No, you could use like Komoot free version and have your $400 GPS and never have to pay for anything again, if you didn't want to. So again, I advocate strongly for a GPS, but you know, if you're only going for like a weekend trip and you're not ready to invest in that yet, you don't have to. A flat repair kit. So you're gonna decide if you have tubed tires or tubeless tires. You're gonna get a flat most likely, unless you're like me and you invest in Schwalbe Marathon Plus tires and you run 5,000 miles with no flats. But most people have not yet invested in really great quality tires. So you will probably get a flat. So what do you need for that? You need some spare tubes, you need a patch kit, you need tire levers. Do I have any? I didn't put any tire levers here. We do have Fix-A-Flat clinics here every Thursday at 5:30, except for this first Thursday because we're here doing this right now. But you need to have flat repair stuff. I honestly, if I'm on like a really long tour, if I'm gonna be really remote, I pack 2 spare tubes, just because you never know. I literally once had 7 flats in a day. So now I have almost none, but you never know, you never know. Lights, again, the whole notion of bike packing and bicycle touring is like, you're gonna be biking a lot. You never know when it's gonna be super foggy outside. You don't know if it's gonna, I mean, maybe you're gonna be going in winter and the sun sets at 5 p.m. Maybe you have to do like 110 miles one day and you're biking until 10 p.m. You're gonna want lights, you're gonna want good quality lights. Did I put any lights here too? Oh wait, I did. I put the Trek commuter comp lights because they're quite powerful. It's kind of like a trail light, but it's more city friendly. With the commuters, the light kind of shines down a little bit, so you're not blinding cars. So if we want, does anyone want to see this? No? Okay. So you gotta get lights. Very, very important. And then, oh, thank you. And then kickstand. Kickstand is your choice. I kind of just put it there because kickstand can be nice for when you're camping and there's no picnic tables. It's a really big pain in your butt when you're wild camping and there's no table and you're like desperately looking for a tree and there's nothing there, so your bike is laying on the ground. I mean, I just suffer that way because I can't be bothered to do anything else on my bike. But you might want a kickstand. Again, all personal preference. And then, oh, and there are some kickstands that kind of like, they're like a V. So, I mean, those are cool too. I don't think we have any in store to show you, but you can just take a look around. Camping supplies, I didn't include anything about camping here because that's a whole nother can of worms to get into. That would take another 30 minutes. So just have your camping supplies ready. And like I have here, if you want to come to the store anytime in the future, just ask for me. I'm Claire, and I can help you co-shop for what you need. There's a lot of little things to think about here. Some other things I didn't mention was, well, we have the patch kit. I bring a spare toothbrush on my trips for cleaning the chain. So I have a spare toothbrush that I use to like get in the nooks and crannies. If you wanted to use a more sophisticated bike tool, you could bring this on your trips. Again, I would recommend this if you're going like somewhere that's particular. You're going to be like a lot of mountain biking. There's going to be a lot of rain. Would bring this. So for example, like the Gap Trail, or the C&O Canal. The Gap Trail is mostly paved. If you're doing the C&O Canal, it rains a lot, and you might want this to help, maintain your bike a little bit. But obviously, it's only 3 days, so you're not going to die. Your bike's not going to die without it. The next thing is a quick link. So if you don't know what a quick link is, essentially it's just like a link that's been severed in half that you can put together on your chain if it breaks in the middle of a ride. I haven't had to use one of these yet because I think I went to a store, bought a new chain, and then I just like replaced it when I knew it was worn down. But a quick link is something you might want to include in your kit. If you had a smaller bottle of chain lube, I'd bring that also for your long trips, because if you don't lube your chain, you're gonna destroy your cassette, and your cassette's really expensive. So don't do that. That's what I did when I was in New Zealand. I did not lube my chain enough, and then I had to get a brand new cassette, and that's like another $100. So make sure you lube your chain every bike is different, every chain lube is different. Maybe like every, 100, 200 miles, then bring a rag and then wipe it down. Just don't not lube your chain. Any questions right now about tools? Cool. And I recommend, bring a pocket knife just for, slicing cheese on the side of the road when you're getting a sandwich. The next thing are shoes and pedals. So I think we had the orange pedals on already, and I just like the color of it, so I put matching water bottle cages, because the prettier you are, the faster you are. But these are flat pedals, and these flat pedals have teeth. So I'm gonna start with flats and I'll work my way up to clipless. If you're gonna go with flat pedals, get them that have the grips, okay? Don't get like the electro bikes have these super smooth flat pedals. You're gonna hate your life on those. Because when it gets rainy, your foot's gonna be sliding off the pedal left and right, and then you're gonna fall over. If you go on some bumpy terrain, your foot's gonna slide off the pedal, and it's gonna, you're gonna mess up your balance. So if you want flat pedals, make sure they have teeth, and make sure they match your water bottle cages. Now, if you want hybrid pedals, did I bring hybrid pedals over here? Oh wait, they're right here, okay. We can pass these around also. So these are hybrids. These are half clip-ins and half flat. And these are SPD clips. So SPDL is road clips. You don't want those. You're gonna be walking like this forever, and you're gonna grind it down. So you want SPD, which is mountain biking clips. We can pass these around so you can get a look. I personally love hybrid pedals because these are some clip-in shoes. They're not attached, but they're clips. When you're biking and you're clipped in, your foot is secure on the bike. I know it sounds scary. You're like, oh my God, what if I fall? If you fall, your foot's gonna get unclipped because of the impact anyways. You're gonna get way more power output because instead of only being able to push down, you're pushing and pulling in every single direction. So you're getting more, more miles for all your energy spent. The other reason is, like I mentioned with the weather, if it's rainy, your foot's not gonna fall off the pedal. If you hit a bump, your foot's not gonna fall off the pedal. And the other thing is, I have knee issues because of my first bike trip. My seat was way too low. And if you get a professional bike fitting, which we do have a reference for that if you want it, if you get a professional bike fitting with your clip-ins, the person there is gonna lock your foot into the most perfect position for your body. And that's gonna be really good for preventing knee issues and physical pain along the way. So for me, now I can go, an extra 20 miles before having too many knee problems because I went to a professional bike fitter and got that totally perfected. It takes 2 hours or so. I think it's really worth the investment because, if you're gonna go for a bike tour for over a month, honestly, even over a week sometimes, you don't wanna be grinding yourself down. So Clips are great for knee protection and power output and just making sure your feet actually stay on the bike. Thanks. So, and the hybrids, I like them because you can either get the clips that are clips on both sides, or you got the hybrids. So for me, when I go on a bike tour, I'll go biking for like maybe 2 weeks, and then I'll go to a city and I'll be a city girl for a week. So if you're gonna bike around the city, you probably wanna wear, I don't know, like your cute shoes. So you don't wanna always wear your, like if I'm gonna go like dancing at a bar or something when I'm in, I don't know, like London, I don't wanna wear this. So mix in fun to your adventure, whatever you decide to do. And then you'll want probably a second pair of shoes for off the bike. Crocs are quite popular. I bring Tevas, or depending on like the weather of where I'm going, I'll either bring sneakers or sandals. So I have some like insulated booties for when it's really cold out. Oh my god, those are so comfortable. Any questions about pedals and shoes? Yes, no? Also, we do have loads of discounted items right now here at Trek. So like there's a lot of stuff over there with the yellow barcode. Just in case you want to, you know, get stuff while you can. Okay, clothing. I feel like the whole message of this is you can do whatever you want, but also there are things that I think are better than other things. You know, you could go biking in a cotton t-shirt and jeans, but you're probably gonna hate your life. I personally think biking and cycling clothing, so we have a lot of Rafa over there. I personally think that's better because one of the mentality, you get dressed for the bike, and then when you get off of it, you're out of the your bike clothing. I think it's just great for the kind of like your mental wealth. But also, it's like they have designed pockets for your snacks, for your phone. You know, it's made for biking, and you're probably going to be on the bike for anywhere from like 3 to 10 hours in a day. So I'm a huge proponent of cycling clothing and also padded shorts. Every now and then you get someone who like is convinced that the padded shorts make them have more pain. I'm not going to tell them to not wear their cargo pants, but you're probably going to want the chamois in your bike shorts. So for me, if I'm biking anything over 20 miles, I always wear chamois. That's my like rule of thumb. Again, it's whatever makes you most comfortable on the bike. Cotton shirts are not your friend. Merino wool, if you can invest in merino wool, like sports bras, underwear, like t-shirts, like anything, that stuff you don't have to wash for weeks on end if you don't want to. It is moisture wicking, so with all of your sweat, it's not gonna be like cotton where it just kind of like absorbs it and keeps it. So if you can invest in merino wool, it's gonna last you a long time, and you won't have to worry about laundry nearly as much because that's not something I have on here, but you're not gonna be doing much laundry. I mean, I don't know, depends on how important it is for you. If I'm going on like a 3-day trip, you just find a little creek and that's good enough. If you're going for like a month, you go to a laundromat whenever you can. So I have listed on this paper an example of a wardrobe for a 1-month bike tour. So 2 cycling kits, that means your shirts and your bibs, and then gloves if you want them, and socks. I like gloves because your hands get sweaty, so I feel like I'm not gonna slip off the handlebars. Sunglasses, you're gonna want sunglasses. It's really hard to bike when you're staring into the sun. A self-packing rain jacket. I say self-packing because it helps minimize space. So oftentimes the self-packing rain jackets just go into their pocket. Again, you can just use a regular rain jacket, but the self-packing ones just keep it really tidy. Arm and leg warmers, or just like a long sleeve shirt. One of the benefits of arm and leg warmers is how easily you can take them on and off. You can also just bring like a jacket, it's whatever you want. And then the clipless gravel shoes. Off the bike, you have a casual or nice shirt, some convertible pants. Well, you don't have to have convertible pants, but I'm very passionate about them because it's 2-in-1. Like, what more do you want? One less thing to pack. Pajamas, sandals if you're gonna be biking in the summer, a hat, some undergarments, and then something fun. So for me, I always bring a little bag of jewelry because it just makes me feel like more of a human when I'm not biking. So some people will bring stuffed animals, it's really whatever. It's like the catchphrase of the night, whatever you want. Okay, nutrition. So the raffle that we have over there was a feed bag that had a bunch of snacks in it. Nutrition is really important for a bike tour because if you don't want to bonk, you don't want to fall over. I had a friend who was wondering why she was miserable after 3 hours of cycling every day, and then she would go to a cafe and just like gorge out on all her food. And I was like, girl, like why aren't you packing like anything, any fruit, any granola bars? Like bring like a bottle of juice, I don't know. And then when she started to pack her food, like her life changed. She could go for so many more miles, and she wasn't spending a fortune on food at restaurants and cafes. Now for some people, that's kind of exactly what they want to do, is they just want to go to the cafes and the little small shops, which is, you know, another great way to go adventure. You know, you can help the local economy a little bit, have some fun. You're probably going to eat a ton of food, but you have to eat while you bike. That's just like a kind of a non-negotiable. You have to stay nourished while you're biking. About every hour to 2 hours, have at least like 100 calories, like at a minimum. And if you're wondering why you should listen to me about nutrition at all, the only thing I'll say is that you should do your own research, not like a quick Google. Like actually, don't listen to the carnivores out there. They're not going to help you with this. When I was in college, I took a nutrition class from an Olympic nutritionist. It was his career for his entire life, was helping professional athletes optimize their eating for their sports. He wrote a whole book on it. I took that class. I was like, nothing is stopping me from taking this class. And I took that right before going on my trips, because it was, I mean, it's like, you know, when you're in college, you should do that. So one of the main things is carbs, protein, and fat. Carbs is your main source of energy. You're gonna eat a lot of it. You cannot be anti-carb while biking. You're gonna be miserable. Protein next, because you gotta be satiated, and then fat I put last, just because fat is also for satiation and also just for like having flavor. You're gonna wanna enjoy your food too, so you should have some olive oil on your bread or something like that every now and then. But the thing about fat is that it's the slowest to digest. And biking is less impactful than running, so you're not gonna be like having too many tummy problems. But fat is the slowest thing to digest, so it's more so just like if you have like trail mix is good because it's calorie packed. If you have like a whole thing of trail mix, like your stomach is you're gonna feel it, especially when you're sitting over. But really the most important thing is that you eat. You eat your sugar too. Don't be sugar phobic on this trip. Sugar is the fastest way to get energy into you, so go eat your ice cream. Your bags should only be 80% full when you go out the door, because you're gonna buy a lot of food and souvenirs. That's really important. So also going on food, it really depends on how, like, you'll have to map out how far your food restocks are. So when I was doing my first trip from Atlanta to Baltimore, I was going to the Dollar General for all of my grocery shopping, and sometimes you wouldn't see one for like, maybe like one a day, if you're lucky. So I like to have a whole menu when I bike. Again, like I'm not ashamed to just pack everything. I will keep a whole loaf of bread, a whole jar of peanut butter, and a jar of jam. I don't care about the weight. I just tell myself it makes me stronger. But leave your bags 80% full when you leave out your front door, because you're gonna accumulate things, or maybe you're gonna take off layers, or maybe you wanna buy way more food. Again, I keep talking about my friend Mitch. He'll like go to a Wawa and just get like 2, like, I don't know, whatever they have, like hoagies or burritos, and just like eat one there and then pack it in the back of his like jersey pocket. Then we get to the campsite and he'll have the second one. So you gotta nourish yourself. So an example of packing for a 2-day trip. You could have 5 gels or granola bars or bags of scratch, some quick cooking oatmeal. What I do is I just buy like a medium-sized thing of oats, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag, or you can buy the little instant packets too. Bananas, instant coffee. One thing about leave no trace is that your coffee grounds, don't just go chucking them around, because that's going to attract animals to the trail. It's also not really how compost works, so don't be throwing your banana peels on the side either. Just pack it in, pack it out. Just want to say that, pack it in, pack it out. Instant coffee, or if you're gonna bring regular coffee, put your grounds in a plastic bag, take it out. Your favorite salty snacks, you're gonna need salt, so you might as well eat your Higher Duty or Doritos. Half a loaf of bread, some honey, raisins, jar of peanut butter. Quick cooking rice and beans. Some people are very passionate about their backpackers pantry meals. I personally think all of them taste like dust, so I will never buy them. But I will oftentimes just get like the kind of like the parboiled rice, and then a can of beans, and then like maybe throw a vegetable on the side. So like jerky too if you eat meat, and then go get food at a local cafe. Any questions about food or nutrition? No? Bike maintenance. You gotta know how to fix a flat, like I mentioned earlier. We do clinics here every Thursday at 5:30. It's not that hard. Fixing a flat is a little bit different between having tubes and tubeless tires, which is one thing I didn't really mention about this bike. I believe these are just tubed tires. If you don't know what tubeless is, it just means there is not a tube on inside of it. It has a special like wheel and associated tires, and you put a goo inside of it. So if you do get a flat, the goo is self-sealing. Unless you get like a puncture, then you have to plug the puncture. Tubed, tubeless, again, it's your preference. I like tubeless because I hate flats, and usually when you get a tubeless flat, you just spin your wheel and it's sealed and you're good to go. But this is a tube bike. Anyways, gotta know how to fix a flat for whatever kind of design you have. Getting ready, so I have it on here, getting ready, lube your chain, tighten down your bolts, check your tires. Essentially, you need to prep your bike before you go out the door. If you haven't touched your bike in like a month, your chain might need to be cleaned, it might need to be lubed, maybe you have a flat, and then if you had a flat, do you know why the flat happened? Because you don't want to go out the next door, just pump your tires, then 5 miles later, you're flat again. Tighten down your bolts, also with your shoes too. If you have the clips, I lead bikepacking trips, and almost every trip now, someone loses a screw on the bottom and their foot is like stuck in the pedal. So just tighten down all your bolts because they will fall off. If you have Loctite, that's a way to help secure them a little bit more. You should also know how to tighten and adjust your brakes. If you're going on a short trip, you might not need to know this, but if you're going on a long trip, your brakes are gonna be eaten. Like they're gonna get progressively, destroyed and worn down. And you'll need to know how to tighten them because maybe after a week of cycling, you're noticing that the brake lever is coming like really close to the handlebars. So I think these are hydraulic brakes over here. Yeah, these are hydraulic. So hydraulic is a little bit different. So if you have cable actuated brakes, they're usually pretty simple. You either just like pull the cable a little bit, tighten the barrel adjuster. You can find YouTube videos about this, or you can just like poke your friend and make them teach you and give them a beer as a thank you. Hydraulics are pretty much just like a bike shop thing. And if you have electric shifting, well, you're probably already on a bike tour right now. How often to lube your chain? So I kind of casually mentioned every like 100 to 200 miles earlier. You just have to lube your chain. Like literally, if you're gonna go on a bike tour and you're gonna be in the middle of nowhere, like if you're gonna like be in the middle of nowhere with no bike shops around, like bring a whole bottle with you. If you're gonna go on a short trip, you can get much smaller bottles. But cassettes are expensive, and you don't want to have to buy a new cassette. And also, like as I mentioned earlier, knowing how many bike shops there are around you. When I was biking New Zealand, New Zealand's a very remote place. There's 5 million people, and it's basically the size of the entire East Coast. You'd go like almost a week sometimes without seeing a bike shop. So you need to have everything that you need for something like that. Or let's say you just really hate people and you want to go biking in like the mountains and I don't know, like Peru or something like that. I mean, again, you just gotta be conscious of where you're going. Make sure you are prepared for that. Cleaning while on the trail. So you can use a water bottle. These ones are actually quite nice. They have a little cap. You're gonna accumulate a lot of dirt in your trip, so a cap might be a nice idea. You can just spray down your chain or your cassette. Like I mentioned earlier, I use an old toothbrush to scrub my bike down a little bit. Oops. Scrub my bike down a little bit on the trail. But you can also get this much fancier brush. Especially like this part will get like the dirt out from the cassette. So you need to take care of your bike while biking. That's all I can really say. If you don't take care of it and you go to the bike shop at the end of the trip, they're gonna look at you and say you owe them $400. So not very fun for that. How to assemble your bike if you're flying. It's actually not that hard to take your bike apart for that. But if you're flying, watch a YouTube video. Maybe do this like a week beforehand so you're not totally screwed when the pedals are on way too tight and you're crying because you can't get them off, which is what happened to me. So just don't do anything last minute, really. And then cleaning. When you get home from a trip, clean your bike immediately. Like get the hose out, get the whole bucket of soap. Maintain your bike. Please maintain your bike. I'm being so serious. Any questions about what skills that you need to know on a trip? Alrighty. And then how to plan for one. So I've been alluding to this throughout this. Water, how much do you need and where do you want to carry it? Right here, you can see we have 3 water bottle cages and just some bottles right here. If you're gonna be somewhere that's really heavily populated, you can go into a gas station and just fill up your bottle there. No one cares, trust me. You can go to like a Domino's and just fill up your bottle at their fountain station. No one cares, trust me, just get water. If you have a water filter because you're planning on being in the mountains for a long time, just, you know, look at the map and like realize, oh, in 25 miles, that's my only river until tomorrow at 2 p.m. So then filter a lot of water for the rest of your day. If you're on the C&O Canal, which is something that's really close by, they have wells. Now you can drink that if you want by itself, but you're not supposed to, so bring a water filter for that. I just use my Sawyer squeeze. I don't really know like too much, but like the difference between what's better or worse. All I've heard is that iodine tastes weird, and my Sawyer squeeze has yet to fail me. So, so please be aware of water. Whether you're filtering it, getting it out of shops, look at your maps. A pro tip about maps: you can download offline versions, which I highly recommend doing every time you go out. Download an offload version of your map. For example, like I had a layover in Vienna recently, and I went out of the airport and I didn't buy a SIM card, so I downloaded an offload version of the map so I could walk around Vienna and still know where stuff was, even though I couldn't use Google. So, the next one is the type of terrain that you'll be traveling on. How remote will you be? Again, the more remote you are, the more self-sufficient you have to be. I personally recommend like Europe for a lot of like Western Europe and Central Europe for beginner bicycle tourists, because there's a lot of amenities like quite accessible, whether it's trains or bike shops, and that's quite like beginner friendly, because if you get messed up on a day, you can just go find a train station, go to the shop. It's pretty simple. But if you're going to be going like, I don't know, in the rainforest of like Colombia, that's probably not the case so much. Maybe there's like a bus. But essentially just be aware of the terrain you're going on and how remote you're going to be. Maybe you want some kind of Garmin GPS, whatever makes you feel safe. Preparing for and navigating for new types of terrains and cultures, you gotta be adaptable, and if you can find some kind of mock way of training while you're here, you probably should. So if you're gonna do a lot of mountain biking but you're not very prepared for that, please go biking on Patapsco, or even further away. You know, Patapsco is probably the closest thing that you can get in the city for that. The C&O Canal is like champagne gravel, what they call it. It's pretty chill out, so you don't like have to prepare for something like that. But if you're not used to road cycling, the United States is a great place to practice road cycling because it's pretty terrible here. So yeah, your bar for garbage is going to be quite high. So that's all I can say. And you know, if you're in a country where they bike on the other side of the road, just make sure you stay on that side of the road. Like I said, review your route. So when you're making a route, you can use Ride with GPS, you can use Commute, you can use Google Maps, you can use Strava. I think Ride with GPS and Commute are the best. Google Maps isn't always like the most accurate. But just, you know, look at your route before you go off for the day. Like look at where your water stops are, look at where the gas stations are. Just make sure you know what you're doing.
What's the difference between Ride with GPS and Commute? Why would you choose one over the other? Is it like country dependent, like, or like the same? You can find the same things in the U.S. or Europe people's apps.
One's orange and one's green is really all I can say.
So no clear difference.
I don't think there's any huge difference. They are pretty well-rounded. They can do any type of cycling. They have, like, I use Commute personally, but Ride with GPS is what a lot of companies use when they're doing group trips. They're both quite excellent. I just see whichever user interface is best for you. None of these apps are perfect, but they're pretty equal. And you can also like follow people on Commute at least. So if you're looking for certain routes, I know on Commute there's like a kind of like a social media feature where you can just like see what someone else did, and then they can like leave their reviews. You can see their pictures, like, oh, this really cool waterfall was over here. Like points of interest. And then where to sleep. So I think this really depends on how grimy and cheap you want to be versus how like, you know, nice and pristine you want to be. So on the grimier and cheaper end, which is how I usually travel, The first option, the first option would be wild camping. So wild camping is just pitching your tent wherever you want and hoping nobody yells at you. I would, wherever you're going, just read the local laws and regulations. So for example, if you're going to Iceland is completely legal to wild camp anywhere for one night, like in the entire country, I'm pretty sure. In Europe, it's like country by country, they'll tell you. If you're quite stealthy, you won't get caught. But just, be aware, you might get a $100 fine, you might just get told to leave and go somewhere else, and then you'll just put your tent somewhere else, which is kind of silly. So there's wild camping, and then there's regular camping, so you go to a campground, pay your fare, I think it's a good balance to do some wild camping and some paid for camping. That way when your power bank runs out of juice, you can, charge it up again. Maybe like a kitchen, so you don't have to just eat out of your uncleaned or your like hardly cleaned like little like backpacker stove or pot. There's also this thing called warmshowers.com, .org, warmshowers.org. That is couch surfing specifically for cyclists. So like I mentioned earlier, I had a layover in Vienna and I wasn't actually on a bicycle tour, but I used the app because I love it so much. I just found a local dude there, his name was Ben, and I was like, hey, like, can I stay at your place for the night? I have a layover, I want to explore the city. He's like, sounds great. Gave me his address, told me where he was, and I just took the train to his place. He made me dinner and talked about biking. And then I walked around the city, came back, I had a futon to sleep on, and then I was gone the next morning. I love warm showers because you pay like a one-time like fee, and then you have total access. And the whole philosophy behind it is paying it forward. So you don't have to pay these people to stay at their homes. They just have a spare bedroom, or sometimes they just have a backyard and they just want you to camp in their backyard, but you can use their bathroom inside. Everyone's different. Like I once had someone who they were like, I'm not home for the weekend, but the key's in the garage, go take it. That was insane. Never even met them. So I've had some amazing experiences on this app because for bicycle touring in particular, I kind of alluded to it earlier, cultural immersion I think is a huge aspect of being a bicycle tourist. And sometimes it's hard to talk to locals. I mean, if you're on a bike, usually people talk to you anyways, so they're like, what the hell are you doing? But if you stay with locals, I mean, you get an introduction to how they live in that country, whether it's Germany, whether it's like Puerto Rico, whether it's Thailand. Staying with locals, I think, is one of the most beautiful things ever. Not just because it's, like free, it's because you get a glimpse into how someone lives over there. And, sometimes they make you food and then you get a glimpse into what someone might eat over there. So I've just had so many spectacular experiences on warm showers. And I think it's also an incredibly great way to stay a part of the bicycle community when you might be alone. I have like friends all over now from using that app. I first used it because I was broke, and now I use it because I just really love meeting people and getting to interact with locals there. You can learn so much, like genuinely I've had so much. So I accidentally deleted the last part of that workshop. It's gone. It's not worth me trying to do data recovery. I don't have Time Machine set up on my Mac. So whatever, it's gone, but I was pretty much nearing the end of the workshop anyways, so I'm just gonna talk about the last few points. I was talking about where to stay on your trips, and I was mentioning warm showers and camping. The next step after that is hostels. Hostels are just dorm rooms, and if you go in the off season, hostels tend to be a little bit more affordable. So if you're going to, if you're going to Spain in like probably August, September, I imagine that's gonna be more pricey for a hostel than if you're going in like February. So hostels can be anywhere from like $10 to like $50 a night, depending on where you are. So they're cheaper than hotels, but they're not always cheap. After hostels, I believe is, just hotels, just staying in a hotel, which can get quite expensive. I know some people like to treat themselves to a hotel. Move. Oh my gosh. Move. I know that some people like to treat themselves to hotels every once in a while, and I fully support that. It could be nice to have your own room and not have to share it with anyone who might be snoring or super stinky. After that, something that I haven't done yet is doing a work away. If you ever want to stay somewhere for a really long period of time and you don't want to pay all that cost, work away is something that I really want to do on my next bicycle tour but haven't done yet. Yeah, you can look those up, see about spending like a month somewhere working in a hostel or on a farm. Same thing with the one that's about farms. I can't remember the specific name for that one. Stop. I can't remember the specific name for that one, but there's one that's basically workaway, but it's just agriculture, which could be really fun to try out. And there were some things I didn't talk about earlier because I forgot when I was actually giving that workshop was having a mini pump or a frame pump and CO2 while you're biking. I prefer a frame pump. I use one that has a PSI meter on it. And like frame pumps aren't meant to get you to like 80 PSI. They're meant to get you enough PSI to then go to a bike shop and get the rest of it. So get a frame pump, and if you like CO2, get that too. I pack both because again, you never know when the end of the world's gonna happen on your bike trip. So it's just good to have two in case something goes wrong. And make sure you know how to use them. Make sure that you tried out your frame pump and you know that it works for both press to end straighter valves. Make sure you know how to use CO2. And all of this information is going to be included in a link in the description of the video below, just in case you want to look at the written version next time you're trying to think of what to pack and how to plan for a trip instead of having to rewatch this entire video. So yeah, click the link below to get that document that I typed up. Obviously, subscribe, like, and comment if you've made it this far in the video, and let me know what I missed in this, because I want to keep giving workshops and keep giving talks about bike packing and bicycle touring. I'm going to also include one interesting article that I read from the Radivist recently, which I think just, provides a little bit of light about bike packing and bicycle touring. But the final message of this is that there is no right or wrong way to go on a bicycle tour. There are just better ways to prepare for success. I wish you the best of luck and happy cycling.